Welcome once again to the Smart Driving Cars podcast. Thank you for joining us. This edition is sponsored by the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. For more information, head to motoetf.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alan Kornhauser. Hi again, Alan.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Happy holidays. We're, I guess, between the two big ones.
Almost New Year's. And we're fortunate to have joining us once again for a special edition, the Senior Director of Automotive at NVIDIA, Danny Shapiro. Thank you, Danny.
Hey, guys. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. Very nice to have you, Danny.
Well, you've had some news lately. This month, Amazon-owned Zoox unveiled an electric autonomous vehicle designed to be used as a robo-taxi, and it's powered by NVIDIA. Congratulations on the continuing success, Danny, and describe for us what powered by NVIDIA, what that phrase means.
I think, as you know, we've developed a whole platform for autonomous vehicles, really all levels, from level 2 plus all the way to level 5. And we have hundreds of companies that are using our technology. It's a combination of hardware and software that goes inside the vehicle, as well as the AI infrastructure that's required to develop, to train, test and validate and deploy. And so Zoox is one of many of our partners. We've been working with them for many, many years. And they're using NVIDIA technology as the AI brain of their vehicles. So there's our GPUs in the data center and our GPUs and other technology that's in their vehicles. They have a beautiful design. They're really innovative, and we're really excited that they've finally been able to unveil this breakthrough vehicle.
It's interesting. Zoox had actually been part of NVIDIA's accelerator program, I understand, for startups.
Yeah, we have something called Inception. There's literally thousands of companies. It's not just autonomous vehicles, but it spans everything from healthcare to oil and gas to finance. We have a program that enables startup companies to really radically advance the state of the art in terms of what they're doing from a technology perspective. It could be AI, could be other. But in this case, yeah, we work with many AV companies that are bootstrapping or even funded to advance the state of what they're developing and supply tools, resources, hardware, software to get them going.
You know, I should pause for a second because to some listeners or viewers who maybe haven't taken a deep dive into this kind of technology, they may be wondering, well, what's a company like NVIDIA doing in this space? Because they know you as, hey, I want NVIDIA's graphics card or
you're a gamer.
Chips in my game. So what's this all about?
Well, a couple of things specifically to autonomous vehicles, but you have the GPU is a massive parallel processor. And that's really, we still call it a GPU, came out of graphics, but many of the calculations that are now taking place have nothing to do with graphics. And the types of math, the parallel processing, the matrix math for graphics is an exact fit for artificial intelligence processing, for handling the calculations for deep neural networks. And so we moved into AI very early on and started developing all kinds of custom processors and tools. Even though it's still called a GPU, it really is now an AI accelerator and a high performance computing processor as well, all in one. And our SoCs, the system on chip, have GPU, they have image signal processing, they have deep learning accelerators. So there's many different processors on a single chip that we've designed for autonomous vehicles. So now there's basically a supercomputer in the car to handle all the sensor data, whether it's cameras, radar, LiDAR, and be able to do all the processing required to safely drive a vehicle. But we also play a large role in simulation, and we've talked about that before. So again, that's leveraging the graphics technology and the photorealism to be able to simulate the cameras, the radar, the LiDAR, and have inputs going into the AV processor to then test and validate everything. So we really play a valuable role throughout that entire pipeline. So from training the AI on NVIDIA to testing and validating through simulation on NVIDIA to running the whole software stack in the vehicle on NVIDIA, we're end to end. And so that's the kinds of engagements we have with companies, whether it's a Zoox or other robotaxi or passenger vehicles like Mercedes-Benz.
And the progress really has been remarkable. I'll let Alan dive
Yeah,
into
of
this.
course. I mean, the key with all these things is that you have an enormous amount of computing to do, and whenever you can take advantage of doing things in parallel rather than sequentially is enormously valuable. I mean, that's what I guess fundamentally got you in graphics, gaming, and of course, this is, as you just mentioned, just an extension, and in fact, a broader extension to it.
Mhm.
And you are probably perfectly positioned to be able to provide the processors here for these kinds
That's
of.
right. I mean, there's a lot of companies that develop technology that go into vehicles today. And there are companies that are bigger than us in terms of their automotive volume. But the types of chips that are going to those cars are very different than what we're developing. We're bringing, like you said, a supercomputer into the vehicle. That's what's required for autonomous vehicles. And it needs to be future-proof. So it's not just developing what you can do today, but planning for the future. So we've talked a bunch this year with you guys, with our announcement with Mercedes and others, with companies in China as well, like Xpeng, who are developing a software-defined vehicle. So like your phone, it's going to get updates over time, and more features, more capabilities will be available on vehicles of the future. So that day you buy the car is probably the worst it will ever be, and it will get better and better over time versus a traditional car, which is the best it will ever be the day you buy it.
Right, having this basis of parallel computing available to you allows the developers to improve the algorithms.
That's
And
right.
it's through the algorithmic improvements and the let's say creativity that goes in the design of the computational entities, structure that goes into that is where the advancements can come. And I agree 100%. This is it, and it's a really fundamentally valuable position to be in because the thing that can change easily is the software. The thing you can't change is the hardware. So
That's
if
right.
you now have a hardware structure that is really open to innovation on the software side, then it gives you this future proof situation that you find yourself in, which is pretty valuable. Although you won't sell as many upgrades, so in some sense, some people are in business to make sure they have
but you bring up a good point, right? So there's a shift to the business model, and software becomes very valuable. And software is something that consumers are willing to pay for if they perceive value in it. So you look at an autopilot option in a vehicle. If every car, or whatever we want to call it, maybe autopilot isn't the right name, but I'll just use that because that's what's out there.
Generic. Yeah, we'll call it generic.
It has an $8,000 to $10,000 price tag on it today, and people are willing to pay that, whether they buy it at the time of purchase of the car, or they may decide a year or two later to pay that, or they may pay it on a monthly basis. So while the hardware upgrades, as you mentioned, aren't there, there's an ongoing revenue stream potential for the car makers and their partners based on a more of a subscription model. So now you take the installed base times the value of that software, and that becomes a much larger slice of revenue than the hardware itself.
Well, that's really valuable from the OEM side, because that provides them without having to go out there and replace these pieces of hardware, just over-the-air update and really improve it. And as we know, a lot of companies have done very well with us switching to a subscription model as opposed to a sell and then go chase after people to try to build in obsolescence and go get them to buy a new one. So this is a fundamentally good business model for you to be in.
It's interesting. I think, Alan, even Tesla is toying with the idea of going to a subscription model with its with its self-driving capabilities.
Sure. I mean, of course. I mean, because again, the subscription model allows you to basically get a continuing fee from someone. And what do you provide them? You provide them continuing content. I mean, it's almost like a cable system, or what you pay Verizon or whatever. You say, hey, okay, I'm subscribing, and you send me content. Well, here the content that's being provided is new software that does more for you better. Okay. And if they can deliver on that piece, then of course folks will sign up for that one. And the way to make that is so that the system in which it operates on is really powerful in the first place, that then can actually use and exploit the innovations in the software to deliver more value to the customer. I mean, it's fundamentally good business model.
Danny, we started off talking about Zoox and the robo-taxis. Give us the overall vision at NVIDIA for this robo-taxi business. Zoox is just one of your partners here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we basically work with virtually every AV company that's in that robo-taxi space. And there's all different shapes and sizes. There's some that are designed for passengers. Essentially, some are now going to focus on delivery of goods. But the reality is, when we start talking about removing the driver, that is a totally different level of performance required inside the vehicle, and redundancy and backup from having a human safety driver. And the difference between a safe vehicle and an unsafe vehicle really boils down to computing horsepower. Obviously, there's a lot of software involved, but you need to be able to process all the different types of sensor data, redundant and diverse sensors, redundant and diverse algorithms and processor types to ensure that you're going to safely pilot that vehicle. And so that's why the industry is essentially turned to NVIDIA. We deliver that very high performance, very energy efficient solution. It's not just smart camera chips added to a car, but truly an AV designed supercomputer that's in the vehicle. And then our software stack is open. I think that's another unique aspect for NVIDIA, in that we provide libraries, we provide tools, we provide algorithms, and a full software stack that others can leverage. So they can build their own algorithms, they can build their own apps, but they have all the building blocks to accelerate that development, and they can customize it. And so having an open system from NVIDIA is that foundation for them to build upon. And so that's why Zoox and so many others, and around the world, in Europe, in China, and Japan, are all developing on NVIDIA.
That's really very important what you point out, the difference between the driverless piece and the one in which basically you have an attendant or a driver on board ready to take over. In the driverless piece, in the robo-taxi, autonomous taxi piece of it, you have no backup. This has to work, and it has to work every 30th of a second, 20th of a second continuously. It can't afford blue screens and so on. And it has to anticipate it or probably failure modes, but you have to be able to anticipate them and have basically ways to safely stop and safely degrade. And that just requires compute horsepower. And that's really what you're providing. And it's really fundamental to making it work.
It's what's interesting. And so we work with companies like Aurora, with Uber. They just announced a merger, acquisition, whatever the terminology is. I'm not sure all the financial details. But the fact that they're both building on NVIDIA, they have this common framework that is going to really make it a lot easier for them to move forward and merge a lot of their effort, as opposed to if they were totally different systems. And so again, I think that potentially could have factored in as they were talking to each other, that they have a common core. They're using CUDA, they're using a lot of frameworks and things that we provide, and developing and building their own algorithms on top of that.
Terrific. We'll be back with more, but first, this is a good time to remind you about our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. To get more info, head to motoetf.com. On the website there, check out the white paper. It's called the Smart Transportation Revolution. It's under the Insights and News tab. Lots of great information there to help you make informed decisions. You may already know that ETFs can be a smart way to spread your risk with investments and focus on a particular category of stocks. The site, once again, is motoetf.com. Danny, besides Zoox, NVIDIA also made some news earlier this month with a Swedish startup, Einride, if I'm saying that correct, which makes autonomous trucks. And they've announced their next generation vehicle. Again, that's another partnership for you.
Yeah, we've been working with Einride for many years. They exhibited a really incredibly looking vehicle. Basically, it's cabless, a large scale, I mean, it's kind of on the order of size of a dump truck and or a garbage truck. It's that kind of size and height, and it's for cargo. And so they have different variants they're developing, some for shipping, some for logging. It truly is an autonomous vehicle for short haul and long haul types of operations. And again, we work with them. They're developing their own app, building on our hardware and software layers. But it's a totally different segment. The end goal, of course, is to have a safe vehicle that can operate 24/7. It's an all-electric vehicle as well. And we're really excited for their designs and their plans of a variety of different vehicle types over the next several years.
Yeah, supposedly they're going to have something on the road in 2023.
Yeah, it's interesting the designs that one has the opportunity to really look at once you remove the driver, a human from driving, once you remove the windshield, once you remove the driver's perspective view. What you can do with the front of the vehicle, how you can distribute the seating space for passengers and riders behind there. I think Zoox has been working on this for some times. Others have, and so on. So really, the way these on the road vehicles have looked, they've been designed. The constraint was an attendant or driver there, access to controls, make sure that person survives a crash head on, and the passengers are in some sense an afterthought, or the cargo is secondary. Now you don't have that initial requirement in the design is not there. Where you put the computers and so on, you make them small enough, it's easy to stack them someplace.
So your airbags protect the computer.
Airbags protect the computer, but how big is the airbag? One has to worry about heat dissipation. You do use a little bit of energy every once in a while, so whatever. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think you look at another recent announcement from Canoe, another startup that are developing truly autonomous vehicles, and it's more the concept like of a skateboard now, where you have the base, the framework to put different types of vehicles on top. So the whole autonomous, the whole drivetrain, the battery pack, everything is the same, whether you're moving goods or you're moving people, and you just have different form factors that sit on top of that skateboard.
Well, 2020 is nearly behind us, Danny. Good riddance, I guess a lot of people would say. But how challenging has the pandemic made it for NVIDIA? In some ways, I guess there are some advantages to having people who can code from anywhere.
For sure. I think a lot of tech companies have really just accelerated that transition to allowing people to work remote, and NVIDIA is one of those. We have the vast majority of our workforce working from home, and software development and even hardware development is going on. We have people that come in and follow COVID protocols when they're in the lab, testing or bringing up new chips and things like that. Our autonomous vehicle fleet operates with a single driver as opposed to the traditional co-pilot, where the co-pilot now is remote. And we have technology that lets them monitor all the streams from the sensors and the driver and the environment remotely. And so we're still able to conduct drives with 2 safety drivers, just only one in the vehicle in some cases. In other cases, now we've installed plastics, so shields. So there's somebody in the front, there can be somebody in the back as the safety engineer as well. So we've been able to continue operating and testing our fleets. And the work from home has actually worked well, right? I think everyone around the world has modified, just like we're doing these kinds of Zoom calls to collaboration and working remotely. You know, it's been pretty seamless at NVIDIA. On the non-AV side, the gaming industry has gone wild, right? Everyone's home playing video games, and so
everybody's in their parents' basement playing video games, right? Well,
so the types of technologies that NVIDIA develops, whether it's for AV, I think it's obviously a long horizon for transportation, but we will see shifts from the pandemic over time. Different car buying behavior. People are doing things remotely. We have a lot of technology that's going into developing, 3D and virtual reality car configurators and car buying experiences. So NVIDIA touches so many different industries. And so the work from home side is something that NVIDIA powers, the cloud NVIDIA powers, and autonomous vehicles and gaming. Healthcare has been another big sector where we've been heavily involved in using AI and other drug discovery technologies to help with not just COVID, but all types of illnesses and industries. So the computing boom has really been large this year.
And you can even make Zoom calls better with your graphics card and software. So if you take a look at 2020, do you think as in this whole industry, the AV industry, has there been much of an impact at all? Has it slowed things down at all?
I don't think it's slowed down. I think at the beginning of the year, we all talked about consolidation, and we've seen that, right? There's been a number of smaller companies, startup companies that are very innovative, become part of bigger companies, right? Part of the whole cycle, there've been a lot of investment in AV companies. And I think we've always said they can't all survive. And so we've seen a few go under, smaller ones, many thrive, and many consolidate as well. And I think that'll continue a little bit more.
Some of the on-the-road testing or services, they were paused for a little bit, but I guess not for too long.
Yeah, I think so. We were one of those companies that we needed to change how we did things, and so we adhered to all the guidelines from CDC and local regulations, and then came up with a solution, and then we were back on the road. We've talked about simulation. Again, that's a big part of this. And so having those tools in place allows us to run simulations and basically test millions of miles that way in the cloud, which of course is much safer than having a vehicle on the road. And so it's a continuous cycle, the development and deployment, and we're constantly testing in the cloud before we put the vehicle software on the road.
I think in the end, we may look back on COVID as being a little bit of a silver lining on this industry, because it has really, in some sense, forced everyone to go back and make sure that their stuff really works, mm-hmm. and that's done, and really improve their simulation and the work that they can do that way. And those tools, the improvement in those tools are going to bear much better fruit in the future than any in-vehicle testing would have borne had it occurred during this past year. Now, to prove that is pretty tough. That's certainly a speculation on my part, but I think in the end, this is probably good. It maybe kept us from a major stumble that would have set us back, who knows what, and gotten us to basically dot our I's and cross our T's a little bit better, because in the sense, that's all we could do. But in the sense, thank you for forcing us to do that. So I don't know. That's the way That's the way I sort of look at it. But what about 2021? What are we looking forward to besides a vaccine? My arm is ready, folks. Where the hell are you? um,
I think we're all looking forward to that. I think that, once you have the vaccine, then I think it's going to open up a lot of
We're
things.
gonna
For
go
people's
nuts.
lives.
We're gonna have about 2 months of this party. I don't know. Never mind. I don't. Go
But
ahead.
no, for the AV world, it's still it's a long-term game, and I think the
Long-term gain. It is a
yeah.
long-term gain with a potential enormous social societal benefit. And that's what it is. So go ahead.
Right. So we're we continue to move forward as fast as we can, and obviously as safe as we can. We have many different partners that, in beginning of January, you'll see new vehicles coming out, again, powered by NVIDIA, as we've discussed. And it's happening all over the world. So new vehicles in China, in Japan, in Germany, and the US. And we're really very excited about that. More pilot programs. You'll see, again, we're not standing still. We're not done with the compute that goes in the car. The more software that's developed, the more compute it needs. So we'll have things that we've already announced, we'll start to bring out to market as well. So there's announcements we made last year at GTC, and you'll see then the tangible results of all that work from home coming out into the marketplace.
What are some of the biggest hurdles or obstacles that you see in the way in the coming months?
I don't feel like there's any big barrier that's sitting there. It's like we said, it's the long-term progression. It's the continual development, and so it's the incremental steps. It's this continuous development, continuous improvement. That is the phase we're in right now. So perfecting the algorithms and ongoing training. There's new sensors that are being developed. You have more and more LiDAR. So we're working with many LiDAR companies to really make that affordable to put into the vehicle, because it is a really valuable aspect of the vehicle sensor suite.
And that goes beyond self-driving, obviously. That goes into...
Well, sure. All of this is along the spectrum of automated and autonomous vehicles, if that's what you mean. So we have customers that are still doing human-driven vehicles with very advanced safety systems. And that is a way to get the technology to market faster. When there's a human driver, there aren't the same types of regulations for a vehicle with no driver, which really have not even been established yet. There are some companies that are now authorized to test in California without a person in the vehicle, which is great progress. And I think we'll see more of that, but also across the spectrum from level 2+ all the way through fully autonomous, great advancement happening throughout the year.
Yeah, I see the driver assist may finally be breaking out, and that people other than Tesla are promoting those kinds of technologies, and salesmen in the showrooms are actually trying to sell it, and are being properly compensated if they sell it, and are properly informing the customers about the benefits, and people are buying, beginning to buy, and in a sense, that's the big opportunity for acceleration of this technology in the short run, is to get the value, the collision avoidance values of this technology to people who are buying new cars, and it seems as if, at least in just my looking at the industry, and they are, instead of showing it at CES or some developmental process, actually really going in there and wanting to sell it in the showrooms, and even advertising it on TV. I mean, as opposed to being able to do donuts in the snow in your neighborhood or whatever that, silliness.
Well, you raise an interesting point, and I think there could be, because of COVID, a shift with how people buy cars, and less visits to the showroom, more individual experiences from home. Bringing simulation into this, maybe you can experience from home what it's like to be in an autonomous car. What is the user interface? What is the experience outside the car and inside the car? You can try out different features in a simulated environment. So there's a lot, I think, that will happen in terms of education and letting people try before you buy without actually having to be in the showroom.
In the end, that's a real value to the dealerships, because, salesmen are, they want to sell cars. They just want this one, next one, next one, next one, doing all the education, all this, so on. They'd rather have you come in and say, hey, I know what I want to buy, or have really very good tools for the customer to learn on their own. And that's exactly what you just spoke about. That
Right.
opportunity will lead to a bigger by the customers of this technology.
And I think once you've actually bought the car, the add-on options like we were talking about, why not be able to, again, experience those? So maybe inside the vehicle, you can activate it for a limited period of time, but also some of these things could be done remotely.
Yeah.
Interesting. Alan, here near the end of 2020, a Reuters report about Apple's plans to have a self-driving car on the road in speculation, the not too distant future, generated a lot of excitement, a lot of headlines. Do you think there's much of a chance that Apple's going to step in the way they did with music players years ago and all of a sudden be the elephant in the room?
They could very well be. I mean, I think that, the two big entities that are out there that don't need to be telling us anything can be doing it on their own. They don't need to publicize it, are Amazon and Apple. And of course, Apple needs something that is big, that they sell beyond the iPhone, I guess. I don't know. They still want to grow and so on. They just don't want to replace iPhones or iWatches or whatever. And why not? So and they could very easily be doing all this all internally and not putting out the press releases and so on, because there's really little value to them of putting that on. And the same thing for Amazon. I mean, as I keep saying with respect to Amazon, at least for me as a customer of Amazon, what's important about Amazon? I know they have AWS and so on, where we're using but it's free shipping. Free shipping. Oh my goodness! I mean, that's the best thing since sliced bread. But free shipping isn't free to them. Oh yeah, I do pay something once a year. I even forgot about that, but I still think it's free shipping. But it's a big chunk of their balance sheet. And if they somehow, with this driverless technology, are able to get stuff to my front door, and maybe it's between midnight and 6 a.m. or something like that, when nobody's using the roads. I mean, it's almost easy to do it then. And I guess one of the good things about COVID, I mean, it used to be, Amazon has to deliver to me in 2 hours. No more. I'm happy to get it in 2 days or something like that. Given
this holiday season, you just want it this week if you can get it.
Yeah, I mean, holy mackerel. I mean, you can get it to me overnight. My goodness. Because I like getting lots of things now. And you take that and you shrink that piece of their balance sheet to something smaller. That means all that goes to the bottom line. Whoa.
And who knows, as we might point out, with the Zoox acquisition, NVIDIA may have a big role to play here.
I just, you have to have a big smile on your face, Danny. I mean, it's sitting there waiting. And they have to be working on that. And they don't need to tell anybody. They're running a business. This is something to really streamline a fundamental operational piece of their business. Just can't wait for them to come out and say, hey, yo, here it is. Zooks, Rivian together, boom, who knows, whatever.
It's interesting to think about what we may be talking about a year from now, whatever progress there is, and how many vehicles will be on the road that are truly driverless, transporting people and goods.
Yeah, well, hey, at least we have a few in Phoenix actually doing it for real, not gonna do it. Okay. So it's at least, and we hear nothing about it. That's beautiful because it's, I guess, working, just moving people, just moving, just moving goods. If you just move people, just move goods for their normal things, you won't hear about that. Do that. Do it well, won't hear about it. Wonderful. The silence is deafening.
It's true. Like we work closely with Too Simple, and they've been running trucks hauling U.S. mail and UPS packages for months and months and months. And
yeah.
Right, there was the press release at the beginning, but there hasn't been any word about it since, which you're right is a good thing.
Is a good thing because unfortunately, a baboon would really make the news, and we don't want any baboons yet. We want to get started. And we are at the very, 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 very beginning of this. Very beginning. And if it's going to become more than a niche. And if it's more than a niche, it means it's more than 1%, more than 10%. 10% of this market is like, whew.
And that's the focus too of the Smart Driving Car Summit, the Princeton Summit, which is underway and really gets underway about a week from now.
Get really underway on a week from Thursday. So we'll do it once a week. We're still evolving some of the sessions and so on, and want to get some feedback as we get started. In the beginning, we really want to look at how do we get the market started. How do we get the market started? And later we'll deal with the technology improvements. We've made it an how do you get people to really buy, love, cherish, respect, protect? Because if you look at the automobile industry, people love, they buy, they protect, they respect. Most of the time, every once in a while they misbehave, and then the wheels fall off. But really, essentially, most of the time, it's a product that is cherished. People go in the hawk to get some. They stretch, they work extra hard, they compete with their neighbors. That's a business. That's a real business. Okay, and I think this technology has the opportunity to be a real business, and we're at the beginning. So how do you make it so people love it, respect it? Don't play games with it, trick it, whatever.
So the sessions will continue through mid-April, Thursdays at noon Eastern, and they'll all be live, which is a pretty interesting concept.
Yeah, well, we're trying to do live. We're trying to do live. It is, people have other things to do. They can go in their basement playing video games. We have hell of a that's tough to compete with. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
And they will be available for streaming later. More information.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, I mean,
people can go to smartdrivingcar.com to get the latest info on.
We're trying to put out information, and we're also trying to discuss and have the audience contribute, because a lot of these issues we don't know what the answer is or what the right answer is. It's still an open thing. Again, we're at the very beginning. We have the opportunity to do it right. that's a great opportunity as opposed to going back and fixing something that's already there. That
Danny, any thoughts before we let you go? First of all, I want you to tell folks where they can read your great blog posts from NVIDIA. And also, you might want to share with us your thoughts about being personally able to play such a key role in the formative stages here of technology that can really change the world and ain't just a game.
Right. No, it's been so exciting being part of this from the very start and working with so many different companies, so many brilliant people to bring this to market, whether it is for people, for goods, but being able to focus on safety and truly is saving lives is what it's all about. So that's something that I think is just really personally gratifying. And like Alan said, we're just at the beginning, so there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. And it's just great to see the progress. We put out regular blogs on a variety of different topics. That's just simply at blogs.nvidia.com. So there's a whole autonomous vehicle section, but there's a spectrum of things covering everything from gaming to AI to healthcare. So it's a great site.
Well, thank you, Danny, for spending the time with us today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, and Happy New Year. Best for 2021, and hope to see you live someday soon.
Someday soon.
Absolutely.
And we also want to thank our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF. The ticker symbol for the ETF is MOTO. More information can be found at motoetf.com. You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com. Find information about the summit there too. Also on Anchor FM, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Amazon Music these days. You can ask your smart speaker to play us as well, and you can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alan Kornhauser. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Please stay safe and have a wonderful year ahead.
And Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.